What's up, guys? This is Scoopman5000 back for another action figure review, and we're back, of course, with some more DC Multiverse, because the releases are not stopping. I got like 14 figures to review, but let's start out big with Kalibak and Fulcum Abominus. And obviously that's this Justice League Megazord over here from Dark Knight's Metal, along with Kalibak, the son of Darkseid, from the Darkseid War. These are MegaFigs, so they come in MegaFig packaging, which is blown up DC Multiverse packaging. You got the names on the front with the big window. The side has the names and the story arcs. The back has the artwork. We know what we're getting into here. So let's not waste any time. Let's get to it. Let's open these guys up and take a look. Let's start out with Kalibak, and for accessories, both of these guys are going to come with the trading card, and I'll show both of them here. As for Kalibak himself, he comes with this club. It's a very soft plastic, more than you might expect. It's got the spiked handle. And right off the bat, it's definitely one of those strange cases, and we see it with McFarlane, but this might be the strangest. How do we have Kalibak before we have a proper Darkseid, a proper Steppenwolf, proper Granny Goodness, or Big Barda? I feel like Kalibak would literally come after all of those characters, but here we are, and the first member of the Apocalyptian family is Kalibak himself. And I guess what it boils down to is he's a big, beefy bastard, and that's what McFarlane likes. He likes toyetic looking guys, and this guy might be one of the best in that regard. It's got a werewolf appearance up at the top. Kalibak, you know, he's somebody that changes throughout the years. This is definitely more of a modern take, where he's a bit less goofy and a bit more scary and muscular looking. See over here, the face paint is actually very well done. It's all where it needs to be. The eyes, the shading around the eyes, the bull ring at the nose, the teeth are dark, the lips. I feel like we are missing something in this headdress. This little ornate part in the middle maybe needs a gem color or just a shine to it. The hair, it's a big sculpt, flowing hair, and you know, overall it looks pretty good there. When we get down to the body, McFarlane always playing around with texture, a very leathery look to the green areas, and then it's smooth for the logo in the middle. And then we get to his armor, this kind of band going around the sides here, connecting to the shoulder pad that has that apocalyptian kind of lines with circles at the end, almost computer looking, apocalyptian design, Jack Kirby influence, of course. So overall, he's big and he's imposing, and he's actually pretty impressive in terms of the sculpting work. Like with most of these McFarlanes recently, he could use some shading, he could use a little bit extra paint, but this is definitely not the worst example of a figure missing paint. There's articulation, the head is on a ball joint, it's going to rotate and swivel. He's not going to look up much because of the way the hair is, and down because of the beard. So you're going to have to rely on the kind of this movement and the tilting. Torso is one big solid piece, and it's going to go in all kinds of directions. Not forward like most McFarlanes, but back is decent. Side to side, swivel around. The shoulder is going to come up almost at 90. There is no bicep swivel as we're used to with these MegaFigs, and maybe that's for the better since it won't snap in half. You got these single elbows, big and large, and almost 90 degrees, but not quite. And then the hands are just on a simple kind of hinge system, not the usual McFarlane ball joints. The legs are a big modified version of the usual setup. Kick back, not so much. Kick forward, not really much at all either. You can kind of play with it and maybe force it, but otherwise that's about the best you're going to get. See the single knee in action, and that's very stiff, but it does go about 90, so not the end of the world. The ankle is going to go back that far. Forward, probably a bit more than that, but that's about as comfortable as I'm willing to go. And then the toe hinge is gigantic. There it is. For comparison, let's start out Kalibak with some standard figures that you probably have. That's going to be 3 Jokers, Batman, and Rebirth, Superman. If these figures are exactly 7 inches, that would make this guy about maybe, let's say, 9 inches tall, or maybe close to 10. So he's definitely not the tallest MegaFig we've gotten yet, but he might be one of the beefiest and the most solid feeling. And then crossing the streams into the live action, the Snyder Cut, and we got Darkseid and Steppenwolf here. And these guys definitely don't belong together. It's different art styles. This Darkseid looks tiny in comparison, or at least thinner. And yeah, I was saying we need comic book versions of these guys, but I will say with the way the DCU is going right now, I'm glad we have these Snyder Cut versions while we were able to get them. Here's a fun comparison. Here's the Storm Collectibles Injustice Darkseid. One of my favorite things in my collection as a whole. And these guys definitely play nice together. I think even the metallic kind of sheens work together. Again, Darkseid should definitely be a little bit bigger than this. I think the one that's going to be the one to get to go with Kalibak for now is that gigantic DC Collectibles version. That guy's like a foot tall. He's also hundreds of dollars. So for now, I think this works pretty well. And then here we are with Fulcum Abominus, which is the Justice League Megazord. Each piece here, each limb, member of the Justice League, crammed inside of it. They form this big battle robot to fight Mongul on the battle world. This comes right from the pages of Dark Knight's Metal. For the accessories, you don't really have anything other than these bat wings that go in the back, but they're less accessories and more we had to fit it in the box somehow. But what we're left with here is the most ridiculous thing, and something that's right up the Todd McFarlane alley. I think that the Scott Snyder and the Todd McFarlane art style goes very well together, the creative vision, if you will. So I believe here what we have, that's of course the head of Batman, the body of Superman, one arm is Cyborg. I think this arm is supposed to be Wonder Woman somehow. Then the legs are split up between Flash, Aquaman, and I think Green Lantern is represented with these thigh pieces. Or either this is just Aquaman in itself and there was no Green Lantern, but it's weird that there would be green on the Flash's side. So I think there's something going on there. It's been a while since I read through Metal, and this really has nothing to do with that story. This is more of the cold open. It's just a cool event. The artist saying, hey, let's make this fucking crazy looking Megazord. And there's really just one problem with this guy, is that the scale does not make any sense. This is not really something you can consider to scale. And I'm not even talking like, yeah, McFarlane, sometimes Batman is shorter than Wonder Woman or whatever. This is supposed to be like 90 feet tall. Like I said in the story, this is used to threaten Mongul or to fight him off. And Mongul in the book is about the size of, let's say, the foot of this guy. Now let's bring in Mongul from the DC Multiverse. And I think that Mongul has more of a chance in a fist fight now. So yeah, this should really be 10 times the size if we're going to take this serious as a scale figure. But we just got to consider it to be its own thing, a cool model of the Fulcum Abominus. In terms of actual details, I mean, you got a lot of nice sculpting here, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You got crazy weapons for the Cyborg and the Wonder Woman arms. On the back, I'll show off those bat wings. I was a little nervous clipping these in. They're on these ball joints, especially the little ones on the top. They just kind of feel like they might snap in half. And with figures like this, you know, because of the nature of collecting and having so much figures, if I ever wanted to store this guy, put him in a bin, and even putting them in plastic bags, you really got to put some bubble wrap around these things or something. So with all that out of the way, I think the true test of this figure is going to be its articulation, because I'm a little afraid right now just looking at him. Let's try to start at the head here, and it is on what looks like a ball joint. Pretty much every head of McFarlane is a ball joint, so you get that usual kind of range, but not much up or down because of the way it's designed. If you want to consider each of these bat wings to be a point of articulation, then there you go. There's 6 pieces right there, and they go 360 degrees in this little ball joint system. The torso seems to be the most standard out of anything here, but it is kind of blocked by this little piece, so you're not really looking down. Back not as much, and really not a lot of tilt. So it's there in theory, but not a lot in execution. Now the shoulders are very interesting. The hinge is actually here, and I call it a hinge. I mean, it is rotating as well, but not really what we're used to in terms of how these things are usually engineered. It actually goes past 90. There's a joint right there. Let's really try it for a second. Oh yeah, that's a movement right there. It's on a pretty thick ratcheted joint. Looks like nothing rotates for the hand here, or maybe if I really forced it. Looks like the same ratchet. Feels a lot better on the Cyborg arm here. The legs split out, and that's a pretty impressive split, especially for such a complex figure. Looks like the kickback is decent too, and the forward is even better. The swivel here, it's almost built like a bionicle. And then a nice double knee. This thing actually has too much range. I mean, he could kick almost the back of his head somehow. Then we could see a nice big ankle joint, and you got some nice ratchets in there. And that's what you love to see with a big figure, because those ankles are going to get weak over time. And then over on the Flash side here, before I exit out, there is no toe joint, but these little saw blades, because of course you need saw blades on the Flash leg. Those do articulate up and down as well. And here we are for comparison. Here's Batman and Superman again. And this makes no sense, because Superman is piloting the inside of that torso. Batman is piloting at the mouth over here. So the sense of scale is totally thrown out the window, and not even in a McFarlane way, but just in any way. There's not really a way to make this work. So it's just going to be a cool piece for your collection, but try not to think about it too much. And then here's the Fulcum Abominus with Mongul. And again, Mongul is about the size of the foot of this thing. So no scale really goes together here, but it is nice that at least really the only time this thing was ever used was against Mongul, and we have a Mongul. So there's something to be said there. And then finally here he is with the manga spawn, and I think it actually makes the manga spawn a better figure somehow. One of those where I really want to like it more than I do, but that blue plastic just sucks. That looks like a mall toy. But you do get a lot of cool details, and you can see the design beats, especially of the helmet, are pretty similar between the two. And so that leaves us with these two megafigs, Kalibak and Fulcum Abominus. I think that Kalibak is the better figure here, and he's going to have more use across your displays, and just in a definitive kind of DC shelf, he'll fit it right in. But also, we know that Dark Knight's Metal is a huge line and a huge part of McFarlane DC since day one. So I think this was a worthwhile addition with the Fulcum Abominus. Almost would have been cool as some kind of Build-A-Figure. Honestly, going crazy mode, it would have been a Megafig Build-A-Figure. You know, you buy like 4 or 5 Megafigs and you build something gigantic, like an old Toy Biz Build-A-Figure. Something the size of like a Sentinel. I think that would have really put this over the top. You know, if they came out with this in like an 18-inch variety or something. That's something they would have done way back in the day with McFarlane toys. But the modern toy industry is a lot different, and each little ounce of plastic goes a long way. Overall, still two really cool figures. I'm glad to have them in the collection and to put these up for review. As always, I'm going to leave this off with some action figure photography. Make sure that you hit like and subscribe. Leave a comment which one was your favorite. And I'll see you guys in the next action figure review.